Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Welcome to Too Much. We are sitting here in Los Angeles with rain pitter-pattering at our window. It's a cozy vibe, but it's also a joyful vibe, pun intended, more coming soon. And this is our last episode before we take a little holiday break. So we will be back in the new year with more amazing people, tools, ideas for you to investigate and hopefully incorporate into your lives. But just so you know, we'll be on a little bit of a couple week hiatus. But because of that, I brought in a very inspirational person for this final episode of the year, Joy Donnell, who is a dear friend. But beyond that, she is a wordsmith of well being. Her short fiction has appeared in Grist and Short Edition, and her poetry has been honored by the Science Fiction Poetry Association. Her first book, Beyond Brand, explores personal branding through the lens of personal development. And Joy's short documentary, Inseparable from the Sunlight, illuminates how our health is connected to plants, the earth, and the cosmos. And her poetry collection, Show Us Your Fire, celebrates disruption as a path to ease and our birthright to inner peace. Welcome, Joy. How are you today?
Exactly who I believe myself to be. I am changing and evolving in ways that I never knew were possible simply because I am welcoming those changes and not trying to remain static
Mm,
and the same. Even though there's a lot of pressure,
mm.
especially in this body, to never change. But the evolution is making me, I think, more myself than I've been probably since I was a very tiny, tiny child. Yeah.
Wow. What's the hardest part about that? Because every time we're evolving, there's usually a little bit of tension where we have to get out of our own way or let go of what's comfortable. So, what's been your challenge point in inviting in the new?
I'm not sure if it was a challenge point. It was more of a deeper understanding of some things. And I know there's like a meme floating around that's, or I guess it's not a meme, it might have been actually something that someone posted on social media where they were saying that, like I think that a lot of women have convinced themselves that they're sad when they're actually infuriated. And I've been starting to
Mm,
understand so much more about the things that I have survived in my life, for lack of a better word, and the just complete and total disgust and rage that a lot of those things that I had to survive created within me, and the way that has shown up in things that I didn't know were actually like rage in disguise. So, for example, I used to really be a perfectionist. Like, I think I was
mm.
known for it. If you had looked in the dictionary, you would have seen me holding a picture of myself. You would have seen a picture of me holding a picture of me. And I've now started to understand that a lot of that perfectionism is actually anger in disguise, is rage in disguise,
Mm,
because you are feeling pressurized to be perfect, thinking that, and sometimes perceiving, realistically, picking up on the fact that you don't have as much leadway to take risk and make mistakes as other types of people. So you have to land perfectly every time. You got
mhm,
to stick that landing every single time, whereas other people get to be sloppy and still get numerous chances to be sloppy.
mhm.
Right. So it's kind of been more of the challenge, if you will, has been diving deeper, going deeper. That leveling up was actually going deeper and realizing how many things have been
Right.
that in my life. And I didn't know it. Right. So I was thinking that it was something else. I was using wrong vocabulary for it. And actually, now that I'm getting more specific with the vocabulary, it's opening me to have better conversations with myself about what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of, and how I want to grow from there, and how I
Mm,
want to open myself to create what I actually want to create in the here and now as well as the future, and not let those things in the past keep living within me and my soft tissue in the same way as they have been before this point.
yeah, it's amazing. Not only the stories we tell ourselves, but society induces upon us. And then we have to figure out what's actually ours.
And most of it is not yours, right? Like, that's the thing that I'm finding. You have a lot of stuff strapped to your
Exactly.
back and it's not even yours. And you're carrying other people's crap. Right?
Yes.
And so it just slows you down. There's so much that you
Mhm.
don't get done. There's so much energy that you don't have because you are loaded down with other people's stuff and you're navigating other people's limited imagination for your life and how you can be. And it is
Mhm.
exhausting. And your energy, your time, all of that is actually part of your wealth. Like, it doesn't really matter how much money you have in the bank if you don't have any energy in your life force. So the real wealth that is actually
Ain't that the
right,
truth?
the real wealth that is real intangible is your time, your energy, your aliveness, your environment, right? Like your the ecology around you, breathable air, water to drink, sleep, rest. All of those things are actually the things that truly, truly matter, like at the end of the day. And there are so many little bullshit obstacles that keep people from being able to be their whole, full selves.
100%. And that's really the goal of what this podcast is all about. The work that you do is really just helping people figure out how to be their fullest, brightest self because we all have our own individual pathway to that. We can't look at anyone else's blueprint. Yours is very much your own. And so, how do we help people unravel that in a world that doesn't really want you to do that?
Well, I've been having lots of conversations about this and I've been writing about it too. I've been talking about it. I personally entered it from a place of unruliness, right? Because unruliness gets a bad rap, just like anger gets a bad rap. Like rage actually gets a bad rap because we see it displayed in society in these ways that are a lot of times outrage instead of someone being like enraged. It's not redemptive anger, it's someone doing something that is harmful and cruel and mean. And we think that that is anger. But sacred rage is actually a completely different thing. And I've been having that conversation because I think that that is where a lot of people are right now. They're not asleep. They're not in comas. They are seeing what's going on. They're seeing what's happening around them and they're infuriated, like I said before. And that sacred rage, it is actually a birthright that you have. Right? It's one of those things that shows up for you
Mhm.
when you are looking at something that is absolutely, absolutely wrong, unacceptable, and it's telling you to
Yep.
not try to manage it, not try to make it okay, not try to go along to get along. You actually need to refuse it because that refusal too is sacred, right? And there's just been a lot of stuff that we are encouraged to do largely because of consumerism, to accept things that are actually not what we are supposed to have. So we're constantly getting less than we deserve. So I've opened it up a lot of times with, you deserve better. We deserve better. You can say it in lots of different ways. We deserve better. We deserve better. We deserve better. Either way, you understand what the fuck I just said, right? And people are really tapping into this sacred rage, and it's scary It's kind of scary because you press it down, you tap it down, you don't know how to manage it because we don't get that modeled to us a lot of times. But that secret rage is actually that's the inflection point. That's the portal. That's the push through. That is connecting you to something that is older than our yellow sun, older than the space that holds that sun. It has been with us for forever. It has shown up in with different peoples throughout time and history, recorded history. It is the reason why a newborn baby cries when they enter the world and someone spanks them the moment that they're born. It has been what has had ancestors say, I am not going to be put to work and worked to death. Even though I am in enslavement, I'm going to free myself and go to a land where no one can treat my body this way. It is us looking at these sloppy things we've been handed and deciding that we are going to build something actually centered on our joyfulness and our well-being, not these rituals of substitution, not these, fast, cheap plastic things that are not the real deal. So I really am starting to appreciate how
Mm.
unruliness is our mother tongue.
For me, rage has often been quite directional. If we don't judge our anger, and they say that anger is a secondary emotion, right? It's revealing something deeper. And so I look at it as when I've been in rage, it's usually a compass pointing me to the thing I most care about.
Absolutely. I mean, it is precise. A lot of times people think because you can lose focus if you're just wrapped up in the feeling of it and not getting to the source of what is actually causing it, then you can feel like it's very imprecise, but it is exacting. And a lot of times it's connected to your heart's desire. Like that disgust is because you are being asked to accept something that is at your core unacceptable and most of the time inhuman in some sort of way. So that sacred rage,
Mhm.
that unruliness, it actually maps everything. You can look at that disgust and it turns that disgust into devotion, right? Because it invites you to come back to your truth, to what actually matters to you. And then that devotion that you're grounded in can turn into daring, the audacity to say, no, no further, no more, not this. And that daring becomes a direction into mapping the new reality, the actual reality that you want,
Mm.
the thing that was previously unknown, right? Is born from dream, is born from heart's desire, is born from Delulu, but it is the Salulu, right? And it's just this code that breaks through the force fields that all the terraforming agents of lack and less try to cloak you from. And they're trying to cloak you from your true birthright, which is wholeness. Yeah. So as I'm talking to people about
Mm.
it, they start to understand it. Like it's not an imprecise thing. It's not something where you're just going indiscriminately and just wrecking everything and just burning everything down, but it is asking you, what are you actually devoted to? Like, what is it? It is inside of you, deep down what your heart's desire is. And the thing is that when you actually name it, once you actually feel into it, it is a better idea to not mess with any kind of cheap knockoff version of it. Because the minute that you start to
Right.
mess around with the thing that is not quite it, you start to train your nervous system into not going for the thing that you actually want to just stay safe. There's something about the thing that you really want that is some kind of way unattainable. So your nervous system is going to get in cahoots with your limitations in your mind and limit your daring, right? Limit your dreaming, limit your actions accordingly
Yeah.
to fit into what you're telling it is safe to do.
You had called the rage a remembering, which I loved. This remembering, this sort of primal siren call, remembering that can sort of alert us to our core truths. How have you found from that signal of remembering that you have been able to rewire a new pathway for yourself?
Well, for me, it was grounded in getting really specific about the thing, right? Like I didn't mince words. I went ahead and went directly into this is what I don't want. This is exactly what I don't want anymore. And this is all the grief that I feel around it existing, right? Like this is
Mhm.
the grief that I feel, the way that my heart is breaking for the disconnection from it. And I'll give you an example. Like you mentioned that I've been writing climate fiction and science fiction. I got to a point where I was so comfortable, like watching dystopian stories that I could fall asleep while zombies were slaughtering people. It wasn't even like disturbing my nervous system enough to keep me awake. Right? Like there was something that I had started to accept about, oh, okay, this is just the way that things go. It's all collapse and carnage and cannibalism, and that's completely fine. That wasn't fair to me or my nervous system or my dreaming. I'm a creative. I like to tell stories that connect us to our wholeness. And what is it doing to me to be so accepting of failure, to be so accepting of carnage,
Mhm.
to be so disconnected from ideas about collaboration? Right? And they don't even support what the data tells us. Like, if you actually look at what happens after a natural disaster or something like that, people don't start slaughtering each other in their homes. Someone actually like gets on a tractor or something like that and starts delivering meals and checking on people, and they're pulling folks from out underneath the rubble, and they're finding dogs, and they're listening for babies crying. Helpers show up. People show up for one another. Things get very serious. So if that's actually what the data shows us, why do our stories tell us something different? I had so
Mm.
much heartache over all of that horribleness that I had accepted as normal. And I had to I'm tearing up as I talk about it, right? I had to feel into that because that sorrow and that impoverishment of what we actually deserve is exactly what I had to feel into to start to think about what is it that I would rather pull through as future. So I started writing completely different stories. I started writing stories with climate hope where we don't fail, where we come together and figure it out. And maybe it's pockets of figuring out. Maybe it's very hyper local here, but people figure out things, mutual aid. They turn away from extraction because there is no time for it. We figure out innovations that are rooted in nature and the natural design that nature gives us to go ahead and keep waters from flowing up onto the shoreline. Like these are things that the indigenous folks throughout the world have known for forever because they've always been stewards of the environment. And so that call to me was rooted in all of that sorrow, all that disgust, all that anger, the way that I got so accustomed to it, the way that I learned to be okay with blood-soaked soil. And the call to me was, what is it that I actually want to create instead? What do I want to channel through? What kind of future do I want to bring forth? What kind of now do I want to have? So, the deeper that I got into myself as a person with feelings and with depth and with sorrow and the ways that I had been impoverished from what I actually deserve, it gave me direction, it informed
Mhm.
my writing, and it changed everything
Mm.
about the way that I'm writing. And the world has opened up to me because I took the risk. I dared to try something that was completely different to me, that I had to sit and meditate on what did it even look like for me to consider a hopeful future, anti
Right.
collapse. Denise, when I tell you, I had to meditate on it for like weeks and months because I had never asked myself that question. It had never been asked of me.
I don't think many of us are asking ourselves those questions. I mean, I did a similar different but similar exercise a couple years ago where I said, "Okay, if this is the rest of my life, am I good with it?" And my answer was no. My answer was absolutely not. I deserve better than this. When we talk about we deserve better than this. And at my core, I really do believe that every human has their unique genius of their gift that they are here to give. And in the culture we live in, we have sanitized so much of people's inner passions. And that doesn't have to be when I say your gift, it does not have to be your job. Maybe you merge it to your job, but you have a gift to give. And most of us, we don't have the space, the time, the resources to do and be that gift. And this is where we deserve, as you say, we deserve better than this. And so I love that you gave yourself the space and said, I'm just going to imagine something different and see what happens. And I have found the more that I do this podcast with people that are dreaming up a different future, the more I believe that future is real, the more I believe we have everything that we need, the more I believe that we are very close to making it all come true. And it has allowed me to stay hopeful, which I've had a tricky relationship with the word hope. I heard Elizabeth Gilbert say this thing a couple years ago that hope is sort of a shallow emotion because it's not grounded in anything real. And I agreed with that for a really long time. I was like, yeah, hope is sort of like this airy fairy, like, let's talk about what's real. Let's talk about what's tangible. Let's talk about, like, okay, healthy dreaming. But hope felt a little bit, I guess, like a ruse, another smoke and mirrors type concept. And I have found myself very hopeful these past couple months. And I'm like, okay, maybe hope is not this ungrounded, nebulous thing. Maybe it is actually just another word for dreaming.
Oh, I
What do you
agree with
think?
that completely. And I would say not just dreaming, but the audacity to take the actions toward that dream. And Ruth Wilson Gilmore talks about this. In her circles, it's called muscular hope. She did like urban
Mm,
planning and she thinks a lot through abolition, right? And there are things that she has said that I had to, it baked my noodle. I had to wrap my head around it. For example, she said that we think about abolition as the absence of something, but it's actually about presence. Like abolition is the presence of hope. Abolition is the
wow.
presence of wholeness for every body. Abolition is the presence of kindness because the cruelty is out of the way, right? So I do believe in muscular hope. I think that there is a lot to be said for when that
Mm,
hope is unflinching, that even in the face of ridiculousness, that
mm,
hope will not budge. It will not give an inch. It says, no, I'm here because if the cruelty and the callousness can create geography, then why can't the hope and the kindness create geography? They're all circuits of energy, I think.
mm.
They're all tributary.
Wait, say that again. I need to
Okay.
hear it one more time.
And the callousness can create geography. Why can't the hope and the kindness? They are longitudinal and latitudinal as well. They are very specific. They are epicenters of energy. They are flowing. They are tributaries going back, leading back to the source of everything that matters and makes sense. Again, they flow back to your heart's desire. They flow from your heart's desire and they flow to someone else's heart's desire. And I think if you really tap into it too, with the biometric field of your heart, when you speak that hope from your heart, it is going to tap into someone else's. And then again, when someone else sees, oh, wait, they're hopeful the same way that I'm hopeful, I'm not just sitting here by myself feeling this way. Well, now you're starting to create the community, you're starting to build the village of thought and action and dream around this. And you're able to get into cahoots. You're able to show up with, like you said before, your special gift, what you have to contribute to the dreaming, to the future building, to the way making, and other people show up with theirs. So I think that when you're doing hope in this muscular way, it is a beacon, it is a sacred space, it is a realm of dreaming. It's a liminality, right? And it's a liminality that is populated, just overflowing with everything, with all the possibilities. And then you use your body and the actions of your body to pull it through from that intangible place into the actual tangible world that we
Mm,
occupy.
I love that. I'm going to start using that muscular hope. I love that we're having such clear distinctions in this conversation around categories of emotions because sometimes words like anger just feel so big. And now we're saying, okay, here's sacred rage, here's muscular hope. Let's get a little more granular in the spectrum of all of these feelings of what we identify with versus what we do not identify with. This is very helpful for me to have a larger vocabulary.
Absolutely. Even refusal can be sacred. Even refusal can be led. It's one thing when you're just setting boundaries so all over the place that you're untouchable by anything. That's a little different. You're performing something different. But again,
Yeah.
when you're being faced with that disgust, like you are repulsed by something that is completely antithetical to who you are and who you came here to be, right? Who you were before the world came in, before society came in and tried to tell you how you have to show up. That disgust is asking you to refuse the thing that's trying to be strapped to your back. And so even that refusal can be sacred. Like, yes, there's lots of people
Mm.
performing lots of things right now, but it doesn't mean that the true aspect of that thing is not sacred.
So, on the other side of this sacred rage or sacred refusal or unruliness, have you found more inner peace?
Absolutely. It's wonderful, and I'm finding that I'm not alone, which I wasn't expecting. Like, I didn't think that there was gonna be a crowd of people right now jumping on board with this, but yes, I have more inner peace because I'm just not even messing with the designer's posture and version of what I want. Like, I know exactly what the thing is. So if it's showing up, I don't care if it's got cute packaging,
Mhm.
if it's cheaply made, it's only the last 3 washes and fall apart. I'm being metaphorical and real with it. I don't even mess with it. So I've been this way for a long time about like clothing, for
Yeah.
example. Okay. I was the kid because I grew up around fabric and I was always touching fabric. My mom like majored in textiles, so we spent a lot of time in the fabric stores and warehouses and things like that. And I got to understand the difference between how a good quality fabric is woven, how it will drape on the body, what it looks like too to have clothes tailor made to you. Like my mom sewed, and so she tailored my clothes. She tailor made my clothes. So I, for a long time, didn't even know what it was like to just pull something off of the rack and have it supposed to be your size and it didn't fit right or fit well. I was trained on clothing being tailored to you, fabrics that feel good to the skin. And then I started noticing that things were changing. And I would go into the store and the whole store would just be filled with plastic clothes. And I would be like, "Do you have anything in here that's made of natural fibers?" And sometimes I got like a no, or no one's ever asked that before. I'm so unusual to be fixated on that. It was people were just buying for trend and look and wearing whatever. But I kept sticking to my guns and searching for the things that were of quality, even if it meant that I had to thrift it, even if I meant that I had to go to vintage stores to get it. I was devoted to that. There was something about me that I wanted the largest organ of my body, my skin, to be in contact with things that made me feel good, because the better that my body felt in that way, the more I was going to be able to tap into my energy as far as I was concerned. So I wasn't so much about trend, I was about quality and fit and cut. I've worked as a consumerist. So I know how it goes in the stores when it comes to lack of SKUs. Like the less SKUs that something has, the less it's going to fit you exactly how it's supposed to, right? If you just have small, medium, large, extra large, there's a lot of sizes that you're just putting together, right? Because a small is a 2, a 4, a 6, right? Like a medium is a 8 to 10 to 12. There's a whole range. So I get very specific with my clothing because I want exactly what I want. And there's something interesting that's going on. And Denise, I hope I'm not going off too much on a tangent with this, but it's been baking my
No, I'm with you. I'm
okay.
a clothes girl.
Something's been baking my
You're speaking my language, the level of specificity and
okay.
detail. I'm a collector of clothing. You can't tell today.
Yes.
But really for me, it is an art, it's an expression of who I am. I'm very aesthetically driven. So I understand the level of precision that you approach this with. I'm speaking the same language. Maybe not everyone's the same, but I'm sure you have something that you approach with the same level of specificity.
Yes. And if you are living on Earth, there's a possibility too that someone has started messing with it. So I want to just give this example of how we are sneakingly being given less than we deserve and we don't even realize it sometimes. So for a while within retail, there was an idea of, if you make people feel better about their body, they're going to buy more of your clothing and you're going to make more profit. So if this person like would normally be a size 6, you make your size 6s be more read as a size 4 on the rack. And so when they go and they pull the 6 and they realize the 6 is too big, they go try the 4 on and the 4 actually fits them. Now they feel better about their body and they're going to buy more of your clothing because, oh, you're like making them feel good about their size. And that was the rule of thumb for a while. Like people would decide to be more generous than strict with things in relation to the labeling to do that kind of like psychological trick. But then we realized that you can make people feel worse about their bodies and get the same, if not better results. So instead of labeling the 6 as a 4 or as a 6, you label it as an 8. And now they go into the dressing room and they're like, oh my God, I'm normally a size 6 and now I'm an 8. This is wrong with me. That's wrong with me. They start focusing on all of these perceived flaws of their body, and they're figuring that these clothes understand exactly how their body is wrong. So they end up buying just as much, if not more, than they would have bought if you made them feel good about their body. And there's a term for it in marketing. It's called compensatory consumption. So you are compensating through consumption for what you perceive to be wrong with your body.
Right.
We deserve better.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just that simple. We
Mhm.
deserve better
Yeah.
than that.
When you look at, for example, food labels from the 1950s to now, something like an Oreo or a Snickers bar, the ingredients went from being 3 or 4 ingredients. So Oreos weren't good for you, but they weren't necessarily as bad for you as they are today. And as we've seen over the course of, I guess, 70 years, you now have all these chemicals and like crap in the food that used to be a 3 to 4 ingredient junk food. And so it went from being junk food to being like heart attack food. Like there's a big difference, or like toxic food. So it's a very stark reality to see what we've done to each other for the sake of profit or consumption, when really that's not what we're here to do as human beings.
Wow. Right? So it has you so far from what you actually want to do with yourself, how you want to spend your energy, how you want to show up. You're wasting so much of yourself trying to compensate for things that you should never have to even worry about compensating for. And your nervous system is out of control
Right.
because it can't figure out up from down or left from right. Is you're living an upside down world, and you're just trying to figure out how to thread this needle that
Mhm.
keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more difficult to thread every time that someone does something that they call innovative, but it's actually just cruelty in disguise, and it's a tactic to extract more from you, right? So again, like this is just it's exhausting. And I just do not believe
Well, it's designed that
exactly.
way.
It's not a glitch. It's not a glitch. It is a
No, it's designed to keep you distracted and exhausted. And I just even look now at all the things like, at the time seem so amazing, like Uber. Uber's amazing. Anyone can drive you. And like, we just disrupted the taxi system and paid people worse and worse wages. Like, nothing about these disruptions of convenience have actually created more wealth or more joy. They just continually end up disrupting systems that worked pretty well for a very long time. Like, even Airbnb, right, contributes to the corporate housing crisis, contributes to the reason that rents are so inflated now is because rents became a mass business, I guess, in a way that affected the working person's day-to-day life. And so all these things that seem so like forward thinking were really just disrupting systems that worked really well. And they've just driven up cost of living to a degree that is becoming more and more untenable. And so, yeah, we do deserve better, and we do deserve to stop. Like, every time I see, like, I went to like a tech week event, and I was like, if I played the drinking game and I had a shot for every time someone told me they were building something with AI, I would have been incapacitated, maybe died of alcohol poisoning. And I was just like, do we need any of this? Like, do we actually need a small improvement upon a YouTube thumbnail through AI? Like, can we really think about what we're doing and why, and the effect it will have on the environment? And I understand that like the AI train has left the station, it's not going back, but we can be thoughtful about how we use it and how we build companies that use it. And I just feel like everyone gets so caught up in the hype cycle of, I'm going to build this thing, I'm going to make all this money. And it's like, once again, is this the life you want? We deserve better. Are you actually listening to your own personal genius siren call? Or are you just doing the thing that you think is going to be a quick lottery ticket to some future version of life in which you feel like these, whatever weights you're carrying, will be alleviated? Guess what? I'm going to tell you they're not.
right. And I mean, especially with AI is constantly promoting itself or is being promoted as creative, but it doesn't create, it plagiarizes. And it just rearranges what it plagiarizes. That's what a
Yeah.
large language model is. It's classical
Yeah.
computation. It's not quantum computing. So it's not actually thinking. It's leaning on the work of what artists have been doing, the writers have been doing for forever. Like, I love an M dash, and I don't mind antithesis, but ChatGPT and all the other AI will pump out so much M dash and antithesis that people didn't even understand that these were classic writing devices that everyone from Joan Didion
Yeah.
to James Baldwin, everyone has used this to think through the human condition and a human saga. It's been around for forever, but ChatGPT looks at it as the most efficient way to get something done. And it's not even trying to actually figure out something that is what you really need. It's trying to get to the solution that is the least likely to be deleted, the least likely to be rejected, the thing that is most likely to be accepted. That's not how you actually are going to create the
Yeah.
future. You're not going to create the future based on the thing that is most likely to be accepted, because the thing that's being accepted right now is part of the problem. The going along with the thing that is the quickest solution, the thing that's most likely to not be deleted, the motivations of what is accepted and pumped up and gets rallying cries around it for valuation are not the things that are rooted in what is going to make our lives more livable, our, connections more real.
Yeah.
And it's just another way to keep
Mhm.
separating us from ourselves and each other. Like, so much of this is just about separatism. So now we are separating the creativity from you, and you are going to this device thinking that you are creating, and it's just word salading whatever you are saying your intention is, and it's basing that word salad on other people's intellectual property and the things that have come before. So you're not even being able to tap into your creativity. It's going to separate you from that. I was
Yeah.
watching, I forgot what interview it was with Trevor Noah, but he was talking about how it's interesting that the more developed a country gets, the more that that development actually means that they have taken away what the village used to give you, and they're making you buy it back. Like the village used to give you.
Yeah, I know. It's so
Right.
twisted.
Eh, it's wild, and now you have to go about taking what little energy you have, the way that you're exchanging your time for resources, and buy back what the village used to be able to supply you, what your friends used to be able to do for you before everyone was stretched so thin and so exhausted. And I've seen too many times where people actually wanted to be able to show up for each other, but they were too tired from what was all the wreckage that was going on in their own lives to even show up the way that they wanted to show up for someone that they loved and cared about. That does not feel like the future for me.
Totally. What I feel about AI is that it's a tool if used appropriately. It has capacity to expand your time and your efficiency, but once again, it's not a replacement for creativity. And I just believe as a creative person, you're not outsourcing that anyways. Like it's not where you're going. Maybe you think of yourself as a creative and then you use a lot of people I know that are like wannabe filmmakers or like wannabe something and they're using AI as an opportunity to press that like button. But they're not people that are actually filmmakers, writers, speakers, like you're using that maybe as a can you take a pass at this, take a look at this screenplay, what problems do you see, what edits do you have? They're not writing it for you, and I think that's the difference. And so I find it to be very clear who's using AI. It becomes very redundant. We're not even at mass adoption yet, and you can already tell who is employing this tool, who's using it, and it makes language feel quite boring in a way that when you read really amazing works. Ruth Allen, she wrote this amazing book, Weathering, which I love. And she has a Substack where she writes about just like life, the earth. She's a therapist and a geologist. So she fuses the earth with her therapy tools. I find her point of view just captivating. And she writes about liberated. She wrote about fucking nothing. It was like she wrote basically about nothing, but it was the most beautiful paragraph about nothing I've ever read in my entire life. And that I was like, yeah, ChatGPT, no model is ever going to replace that. And so I look at it as like if you can use it as a way to buy back some of your time, so then you can find more time for connection with people you love. That's how I see it now, whether it's helping with small stuff. What I like about this platform for podcasting we use, for example, is I can dub in audio if something was not phrased correctly. We can dub it in my voice. And so there's like small things that save you time or helping me with a episode description. They don't need to be me spending hours and hours. And then that affords me the time to be more present for the people I love. That's really how we should frame it for ourselves is that if we can't eliminate these tools, how do we use them so they make us more human?
Oh, absolutely. with that. I'm of the generation that I thought we were going to have flying cars by now, right? I got told that the information age was
We
or
all did.
that the information age is gonna have us more informed and connected, that we were going to be at 4-day work weeks, if not 3-day work weeks by now, right? Not adding on more work week time, but actually getting more time to be human.
Yeah.
That was what the promise was, and that was the picture that was painted. That was what was supposed to be going on, and what's showing up is something completely different. So, yes, I am on board with if it is helping you save time, helping you edit. And I've even spent time talking to ChatGPT in that way to be like, yeah, like find the holes in this. Just argue this down, drag this, drag it.
Yeah.
Like I like give me the worst critique possible. And then I'll see if any of the notes are actually viable or not. So I appreciate that aspect. But also, like anything else, there's a large contingency of people that are being in or encouraged, and I maybe even feeling like the thing they are supposed to do is look for the most plunder possible. And again, this is a reflection of what has been pumped into us through the stories that we've been told and sold over and over and over again, though who we think we see getting lionized for certain things and who gets turned into a sucker MC for doing the right thing or going about things from a heart-led way. And that's
Mhm.
why I think that it's so important now to really start critiquing the things. And again, coming back to that, is it just completely misaligned with everything inside of you?
Yeah.
And just stop trying to swallow slop. Just so much desperation.
Yeah.
And we really do have, and I know like Marion Williamson, for example, has used this phrase like concentrated desperation. Like I do feel like we're a lot of times we're being herded into the most desperate points possible. And then at that point, people are really just trying to figure out survival, survival, survival. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we stop looking at these tools and these text innovations as survival. Like I know you mentioned convenience, and yeah, we do look at them, so or we're encouraged to look at them as convenience, and we think they're going to be convenient, but then a lot of times they end up feeling like the only way that we're going to be able to survive. And I still think that the
Yeah.
way that we actually survive and the way that we start to thrive is to get back to each other and create stronger
I
community,
agree.
right? Get more rooted in village mentality. Get more involved in acts of reciprocity with one another and circularity with one another. We don't have to keep having the brand new shiny thing. Like I love when I'm seeing things like what is it, lending libraries? So like you can go to the library and you can check out
I
KitchenAid.
know.
So you can make that thing
Yeah.
for a dinner and you could just go check out the kitchen. You don't have to go spend hundreds of dollars buying it. You can go check it out. That is beautiful to me. That is the stuff that we need. We need more of that and less of these silos where we feel so utterly alone and hopeless and we're just trying to figure out how to be okay from one day to the next because that doesn't leave a lot of space for dreaming. Like if you're just trying to not get eaten
Yeah.
alive, you're just running for your life. You're not dreaming while you're running for your life. That's not a thing that happens.
Mhm. Yeah, we did an episode, it was pretty early on in when I launched Too Much, about regulating your nervous system because I really do believe if we all learned simple practices to bring us back to presence, then we get out of that cycle, which is what we're forced into through the media, through culture, through society, through work, through everything, capitalism. If we can just take some of that slowness back, and I mean, you're speaking to someone who spent years racing against the clock around some idea that I was going to achieve X, Y, and Z by X date. So I'm speaking as a recovering capitalist mindset, okay? Like deep, deep cuts. I drank all the Kool-Aid, drank all the marketing. And I can tell you on the other side of this, much better, much happier. And I just trust the process a lot more. And I'm no longer willing to sacrifice the people I love. And that is something that has shifted for me. But it's also because I regulated my nervous system and I know how to do that now when I can see myself when I get really busy and all of a sudden I see myself going down that spiral where it's like still a little sexy to be like, do I want to go be that person again? And I'm always like, no, 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 pump the brakes, pump the brakes. Just like come back. Nothing is urgent. Nothing is life or death. I am not a surgeon in the trauma ward. So nothing I am doing is life or death. For some people, that is their thing. And that involves urgency. But for the majority of us that are not involved in life or death scenarios, like we really have to remember that it's okay to not respond to that email, to sit with your family for an hour at dinner. Like it's okay.
So much of that resonates with me because it's also been within my journey tapped into romance. And I know I talked about this a little bit at the end of last
Mm,
time that we sat down together. Like that romanticized language has been a reframing for me, but it's also been a portal and it's been transmutative too. So I started like really thinking about a lot of the words that I use. And I got trained on neuromarketing. I got, which is a form of war strategy, really, in a lot of ways, war communication, in a lot of ways, publicity and everything else is about grabbing the mind in a way that you get the person to believe the reality that you want them to believe. And within that, there's always words like discipline, right? Like so much of our language toward our betterment or how we want to be or what we're noticing about ourselves is based in this war communications language. And I was just thinking about discipline because I've used that most of my life and I've always, heard other people use it and it felt right for a while until suddenly it didn't start feeling right. And I started wondering, do I really need more discipline or do I need more devotion? Like, do I actually need to be more devoted to myself? Because discipline, it just keeps demanding things from you. It expects you to show up like this and behave like that. It doesn't offer anything. But devotion never shows up empty handed,
mm,
right? There's always offerings. It felt more like a way to approach the goddess with my hands full, right? And I mean that inner spirit. And that devotion has reshaped how I think about my nervous system. So for me, and like I said, this is just what works for me, it's not really about having a calm nervous system. It's about me being able to show my nervous system that I'm not going to abandon myself. And the more that I stay, the more that I stay devoted, the more that I stick with me, the less that I compromise the things that I don't want, like go ahead and take that thing that is less than what I want and stay devoted to what I actually believe to be connected to my heart's desire. The more, like I said, inner peace that I have, the more in tune I am with my nervous system, the more that my body is able to drop into a meditative space with my mind and my heart and really not just stay grounded in what I want to do and what I am doing, but also work toward the thing that I want to create. So that has been such a switch up
mm,
for me, and I just talk to myself now with the most romantic language, and I try to create rituals with myself that are romantic in that way, because it is for me about that devotion. I don't need discipline.
mm,
I maybe at one point I did, but who I am now, this version of me just needs the devotion. I don't want sustenance. I
mm,
want nourishment. I don't want
mm.
less. I
Yeah.
don't want scraps. I don't want crumbs. And that is how I'm starting to connect to that truth of what actually feels right to me that has always felt right. I just didn't
Mhm.
know how to necessarily stand my ground for myself until now with certain things.
As we close out 2025 and usher in 2026, I think I'm hearing reciprocity is something we should all be centering and devoting ourselves to. I look at that with relationships and work, but I think reciprocity is really the core of human health, right? You have to have the give and take in equal measure, as my therapist used to say. And so, thank you for this end of year sermon. And I hope people will take it with them on their holidays and start 2026 from an unruly place.
Mm.
And
And
so it
so,
is.
yeah.
Thank you, Joy, for being here. I really
Oh,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me, Denise. It's always amazing to sit down with you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle, Dana Boulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.